Hey guys, Redneck Mini 14 here, and in light of everything that happened over this past weekend with the hurricane and all the flooding in Tennessee and the Carolinas, I really felt obligated to make a video like this because I don't think I've covered this very specific topic on my channel before, so let's talk about it. The topic of this video is top 5 guns for a natural disaster. This could be for any big natural disaster where you have to evacuate your home. So probably one of the most likely would be a big flood like what just happened over the weekend because of hurricanes, or an earthquake, or something like that. Now obviously we're not talking about your average hurricane or your average tropical storm, because I mean the US has been hit with many hurricanes and tropical storms over the years. Not all of them cause the amount of damage and the amount of flooding that this one did, but it can happen, and you should be prepared for it. Now obviously you want more than just guns, food, water, all the essentials, but we're talking about evacuating your home, because your home very likely could be swept away because of flooding. You definitely want to have some form of protection, because when things like this happen, people are not themselves. When natural disasters happen, or any sort of like without rule of law scenario, and natural disasters is probably the biggest one that occurs, but people just aren't themselves. They do things they wouldn't normally do. They loot all the stores for all the big screen TVs, because how can you survive without your big screen TV? But anyway, people get violent, and you just never know what anybody's going to do. Not only people, but animals as well, depending on where you are, if you're in a rural environment or an urban environment. So you definitely want to have some form of protection. And let's just start it off with the gun that I think is the most important gun to have in this situation, and that is a pistol. And I have a few options here, but basically you want to have a pistol for protection, and a pistol is the easiest one to carry, or one of the easiest guns to carry for protection when you're trying to evacuate and get to higher ground, or just get to another state where it's safer. So I got a couple of 9mm here. So I got a Smith & Wesson 5906 and a Ruger P89. The P89 is actually loaded and ready to go, as is the Glock. This is a Glock 22, so it's a 40 cal. 40 cal is another good option. 15 rounds of 40 cal, or 15 rounds in each of these of 9mm, and of course you have the 45 in the Ruger SR 1911. So 7-8 rounds of 45 in that. These aren't all necessarily the best options, but these are some of the options that I have, and they're some of the options that I personally take if the situation ever arose. And here's the thing: when it comes to guns in a situation like this, the gun you have is the best gun, because a gun that you have is a lot better than a gun you don't have. So whether or not a gun is the best choice, it's really irrelevant. If you have a gun of any caliber, any size, whatever, it beats having no guns. So I personally think all of these are good options. They're all pretty common firearms, pretty common calibers, and I imagine most people out there would probably have at least one of these. Somebody who owns guns probably has at least a 9mm, a 40, or a 45 in their collection, and could take it with them. Alright, up next we have revolvers, and this really goes in line with the semi-automatic pistols as well, and it's more along the lines of if you live in a more rural area where you might have bears or mountain lions or wolves or whatever, or maybe even if you live more south where there's like alligators and stuff, because you never know when a hungry alligator might want to attack you. I mean, I have seen videos from these floods where there are alligators in the water. And, some people are going to say, well, a little revolver is not going to do anything against an alligator. The right revolver probably will. I've seen swamp people, a long time ago, and I mean, they're killing alligators with 22 rifles. So I think if a 22 rifle, in the right area, because there's a really small kill spot on an alligator, but a 22 rifle in the right area, I think a 44 Magnum could definitely do the job on an alligator if the situation ever arose. But anyway, these are just a few of the revolvers that I have. Obviously, the Smith & Wesson Model 10, probably, not the best when it comes to bear or mountain lions or anything like that, but it is a very common revolver, very common caliber. I have a lot of ammo to go with it. The Ruger Security 6, this is a .357 Magnum, so again, a very common caliber, and it can also take .38 Special, obviously. I would definitely, between the two of them, I would definitely take this one over that one, but if those are the only two guns I had available, I'd probably just take them both. And then, of course, we have the Ruger Blackhawk. Now, this, out of all my revolvers, would be the best option for if I was in bear country, because it's a .41 Magnum. 41 Magnum is a very powerful revolver round, and it's not quite as powerful as a .44 Magnum, but I don't have a .44 Magnum, at least not in a revolver. So that's probably the best option for that. But in general, I probably, if it was me in my personal situation, I have a lot more 9mm pistols, and so I'd probably take a 9mm or a couple 9mm. I mean, we're talking about if this is your family, not if it's just you, because generally you're going to be moving with your family or maybe with your neighbors or whatever. There's probably going to be more than one person involved, so you're probably going to have several guns between however many people there are. Because you want to have everybody protected. So anyway, those are just the revolvers that I have to show off. So on to the next gun. Alright, the third gun on the list is a 12 gauge shotgun. Now obviously if a 16 gauge or a 20 gauge or a 410 is the only shotgun you have, then that's the only shotgun you have, and obviously that's a shotgun you're going to take with you. But I have quite a few 12 gauges, so I would definitely go with a 12 gauge myself. So these are just a few that I have, and when we're talking about shotguns, we're generally talking about defensive style shotguns, so something with a shorter barrel, longer magazine tube, if it's available. Because we're not talking about survival or hunting purposes, we're talking about defensive purposes, defending against other people or other animals that might want to do you harm. So although it could come to, survival and trying to hunt and everything like that, but depending on how bad the natural disaster is. But anyway, these are just a few of the examples that I have. So we have the Mossberg Maverick 88. It's got a 20-inch barrel with a 7-round magazine tube. This is personally the one I would take because this is my home defense gun. It's already locked and loaded. It's got a sling and everything that I really need in a defensive shotgun already on it, so this is the one I would take. But we also have the Rock Island Armory T-Pass right here, which is I think it's an 18 or 18 and a half inch barrel with a 5-round tube. And of course we have the Remington 870. I think that's a 18 and a half inch barrel with a 6-round tube. All three would be good choices, and I mean, you just, like I said, you just take what you can get. So anyway, those are the 12 gauge shotguns that I have to show off. So on to the next gun on the list. All right, number 4 on the list is a defensive rifle. And I suppose, if you have like an AK or an AR pistol, I mean, those would definitely fall within this category as well, even though they're technically a pistol. But something in 223, 556, 762 by 39, or even 300 Blackout, or 6.8 SPC, or 6.5 Grendel. Any of those calibers, semi-automatic, would definitely be a good choice for a defensive rifle. And by the way, I'm not really doing these in any specific order, other than I think that the first gun on the list, the pistol, is definitely the most important gun to have. But all these other ones, they really don't need to be in any specific order. If you have them available and you're in a hurry and they're there and you take them, great. But definitely the pistol is the number one gun I think you should bring. But these are a few of my choices that I would go with for a defensive rifle. Obviously, the Ruger Mini 14. This is one of the ones that I would definitely consider taking because obviously, it's just in the name, Redneck Mini 14. But this is my favorite rifle right here. So this is one of the ones I would take. This is an AK. This is I think it's called an AMD 63. It's been a long time really since I've talked about this gun, but it's a good choice of an AK. I don't even know how common these AKs are on the market, this specific one, and it didn't come looking like this. I made some changes to it, but back in the day, this was a good, inexpensive AK and definitely a good choice for a defensive rifle. And then, of course, the AR-15. Obviously, this is one that I, just got an upper and lower and, put them together, made a few changes to it. But, nothing really special there. But all three of these, definitely good options for a defensive rifle. And obviously, it depends on what state you live in. So it depends on what state you live in when it comes to which one you're going to choose. Obviously, like if you're in California or something, you might go with something more like, a Mini 14 because it's a lot harder to get ARs and AKs. I mean, I guess unless you're grandfathered in, you have one from a long time ago or whatever. But, and when it comes to laws, I'm definitely not going to tell anybody to break the law. But in a situation like this, people really don't care about the law, especially the ones that are going to do you harm. So you just take that for what you will. But there's a reason they call it a without rule of law scenario, or like Nothing Fancy would say WROL, and that's really what we're talking about. So anyway, those are the defensive rifles, and these are three of the options that I personally would take out of my collection. On to gun number 5. All right, the 5th gun on the list for top 5 guns for natural disaster is a lever action rifle. Now, why would I say a lever action over a bolt action? Well, a couple reasons. The main reason is because, like I said, this whole video, for the most part, we're talking about defensive firearms. We're wanting a firearm to protect ourselves from other people and animals wanting to do us harm. And a bolt action, for the most part, is really a long-range rifle. It's more of an offensive rifle, something you would hunt with or you would snipe with. Shoot a person that doesn't know that you're there. A lever action rifle is, for the most part, a more close quarters rifle. When you're talking about 30-30s and other lever action calibers, when it comes to hunting, most people would say that you're wanting to take a shot within 100 yards. And so that's really what we're talking about. So shorter range rifles for people or animals that are definitely closer to you and know that you're there and are specifically trying to attack you. That's what we're talking about. The other reason why I personally would choose a lever action rifle is because we have horses, and a big thing about you know, evacuating, big thing that I always say is you don't leave your animals behind, whether it's your dogs, your cats, or your horses, or any other animals. But, we have horses and donkeys, and obviously we wanted to, put them in a trailer and haul them away that way. But you may find yourself in a situation where you have to abandon the truck or trucks and go off on foot. And if you have horses, you might have a couple of saddles with you, and depending on how many horses you have, you might have a couple of saddles and a couple of people get on the horses, a couple of the horses to herd the rest of the animals to where you need to take them. And I've said it in the past, and I'll say it again, that I think a lever action rifle is the best type of firearm for horseback, because they just lend themselves to a scabbard so much better than a bolt action or some other types of firearms as well. So in that case, it is definitely a personal preference choice, but it's still a good choice in my opinion. So what do we have here? We have a Marlin 1894 in 44 mag. Definitely a good choice for a defensive rifle. We have a Glenfield Model 30, which is basically just a Marlin 336 and 30-30. 30-30 is probably the number one caliber that I personally would choose in this situation. Of course, I have many different lever action rifles, many different calibers, so I have the luxury of choosing which caliber and which specific rifle I want. But, this is probably the one that I personally would choose. But another one that I think would be a good option is this Henry X model. Now, this is a 360 buckhammer, so not a very common round, at least where I'm at. If you're in the straight wall states, 360 buckhammer would definitely be a more popular round, more common round, and this probably would be a better choice for those states. And of course, like I said, the gun you have is better than a gun you don't have. So if you have a 360 buckhammer, whether it's a common gun or not, and you have ammo for it, then that's just what you got, and that's what you're going to take with you. But more so with the style of lever action this is, you got a nice big lever loop here. Well, not like a huge lever, but a slightly enlarged lever there. You got good sights. You have a Picatinny rail up here for a light if you need it. It is threaded for a suppressor or a muzzle brake or whatever. So all those things I think make this specific type of lever action just a better choice because it's just more modernized. But I think 30-30 and maybe even the 44 Magnum, I think those are two better caliber choices. But 360 buckhammer is definitely, if we're talking about power and performance, a 360 buckhammer definitely outperforms the 30-30, and probably even the 44 Magnum as well, because this is really just a pistol round. So it really probably outperforms either of these two, but it's just not quite as common. And I personally don't have as much ammo in 360 as I do 30-30. Well, definitely 30-30, but also 44. I definitely have more ammo in both of those calibers. So for that reason alone, I would take one of the other two. But anyway, so that is the final gun on my list of 5 guns for a natural disaster. Let me know if you would make any changes to this list, and just let me know your thoughts.
Hey, before I go, I just thought I'd remind everybody that I do have a second channel called Redneck Off the Range. Over there, I post most of my non-gun related content, so whether it's a video on my new tractor, my power tools, my projects that I'm working on, maybe wild game recipes, or just a random vlog, I post all of this kind of content over on my secondary channel. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, go check it out, Redneck Off the Range. But that's all for this video, so subscribe to my channel, like me on Facebook. I'm Redneck Mini 14, and until next time, be safe.